So what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is if you have less than 2 years, you have 1 year, you have 6 months, don't take the 6 months moratorium. Don't. In fact, it will be cheaper for you to take a personal loan to sort out your hire purchase, then you service your personal loan. MCO moratorium, we all know the Prime Minister announced that everyone, doesn't matter how much you earn, doesn't matter whether you're affected, you get a moratorium as long as you apply to the bank. Now, essentially what it means here is that there are two kinds of scheme available to you. For most people, these are the only two things we are looking at in relation to hire purchase. You have moratorium, which is mandated by the government. Yeah. And then you have targeted assistance. Now, targeted assistance is basically to modify your existing loan in such a way that it suits you, because waiving 6 months, you're piling on a lot of things towards the end. So targeted assistance allow you to balance, to achieve some kind of balance. But primarily, we are looking at moratorium. Under moratorium, the differences with the targeted assistance, the first difference is this. Moratorium is available to all. You don't have to worry about whether you will pass or not. You will pass. Whereas targeted assistance, this one you have to apply, and it's dependent on the bank to see whether they want to give it to you or not. I did not research into housing and whatnot. I only look into hire purchase, and both are available. So let's look at moratorium. Moratorium, there are two options here. One is called the 6 months moratorium with term extension of 6 months. Literally what this means is that you are adding 6 months at the end of your term. Let's say you're supposed to finish in 2023 December. If you opt in for this, what will happen is that basically you add 6 months to that. You will be 2024 June. Now, there are alternative options, and not every bank provides all the alternative options. As far as I know, currently all banks except CIMB gives you this. So from what I have seen, Public, Maybank, MBank, RHB, and Hong Leong, all of them, their hire purchase allows you to have a second alternative, which is instead of going full on 6 months moratorium, you pay 6 months 50%. That means you reduce your repayment amount by, let's say you're paying 1,000 now. Reduce it by 50%, you're paying 500. Now, there's a catch here. This is an extremely important catch, because I myself was considering this because I want to pay into my capital. I don't want to enjoy too much because there is consequences. But the problem is there is no extension. The keyword here is there is no term extension. There is no, let's say originally your loan is supposed to finish on the December of 2023. It is still finishing on December 2023. Let's say you're paying 1,000 every month. Chances are the last payment sometimes maybe is a bit cheaper. Maybe it's 800, maybe it's 700. But let's say it's 1,000. Right. But no, man. Now it's not going to be 1,000. The 50% you enjoy for the 6 months now, you got to pay in lump sum in December 2023. If your monthly repayment is 1,000, you got to pay 3,000. Not just 3,000, 3,000 plus whatever you're supposed to pay, which is say 800 or 1,000. Let's make it easy, 1,000. So now it's 4,000 plus their interest, their charges, which is flat, which is good. I have to say, which is good. It's not compounded, but it's all added up. You're looking at 5,000 ringgit at the end, lump sum. Where are you going to get the money? Now, if you have that money, that if you're paying 1,000 ringgit and you have 5,000 ringgit sitting somewhere, you don't need the help. It's understandable that, under normal circumstances, you think, oh, at the end of the year, I usually have some bonus, at least a month or 2 months. Then I can use that too. No, man, at this environment, how are you going to be sure of this? And what if you don't have that 5,000? And we're talking about 1,000 ringgit loan. 1,000 ringgit loan is a VIOS, right? 1,000 ringgit loan is give or take a VIOS, 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. And you're expecting a person who buys a VIOS to come up lump sum 5,000 at the end of this. He might as well don't opt in the first place, okay? And this one is offered by Public, Maybank, MBank, RHB, and Hong Leong. So every bank except CIMB. I do not see CIMB offering this option. CIMB, on the other hand, offers this, which is called a 3 months moratorium with extension by 3 months, which is basically this, half of that. If your loan term is supposed to finish by December 2023, by taking this 3 months help, you will extend it by 2024 March. Yeah, so these two are the only alternative options I've seen. Okay, do the 6 month moratorium. Now, of course, there are targeted assistance. This is subjective, all right, and quite complicated. I'm talking about moratorium that is, mandated by the government. There are 2, 6 months, and alternative, either 50% for 6 months or 3 months. And this is only available by CIMB. So I'm in a position where I'm asking myself, should I take this 6 months straight, or should I opt for one of these? Now, this option actually is not available for me because I don't have a loan with CIMB. I only have loan with public for hire purchase, and I think primarily most hire purchase is public bank. Now, the problem, however, is that I think on a broad stroke, you realize that this is not worth it, because by not having any term extension, okay, how are you going to come up with the money? Let's say I'm paying 2,500 ringgit a month. I end up having to find 14,500 ringgit to settle the loan at the end. No, thank you. I don't think I want to, because, with that kind of money, I might as well just, if I can come up with that kind of money at the end, I might as well just go and get a new car. I straight away put this option out of the question because of this no term extension problem. If you're talking about cars that they don't depreciate a lot, so we're talking about low cost cars. So like Myvi, right? Like brand new Myvi is what, 50,000? After 10 years, the damn thing is still 20,000, man. Yeah. Like what? Makes no sense whatsoever. But if you're in that category, and let's say you take a 9-year loan, give or take, you're paying what, 500 ringgit a month. Okay, 9-year loan, Myvi, 50,000. You're looking at give or take about 500 ringgit a month, 500 plus a bit. But after you use for 7 years, maybe you want to sell. If you are not going to complete the term, and when you sell the car, you're going to get some money back, chances are than what you owe. And that's good if you are talking about Myvi or maybe Saga, even, cars that have very good residual value, especially after 6, 7, 8 years even. Then maybe you are transferring the hurt to a point where you don't feel it. It's because you're not going to get the money anyway. You're just not going to get the money back, then it may be helpful. But if you are looking at expensive car, I'm giving an example, BMW, Mercedes, even with these 2 brands with good resale value, there is a good chance that you're just going to break even. And we're talking about 2,000, 3,000 ringgit kind of repayment a month. Where are you going to come up with 15 to 20,000 ringgit? At the end, the bank just going to sit there. I don't know how you're going to solve the problem. Find the money. How else? I don't see a point. But I do see a point in doing this, though, the 6 months moratorium. The 6 months moratorium, I do see a point, but the devil lies in the detail. And here is where the detail is quite dangerous. You have to look at the 6 months holiday, this 6 months holiday, as a loan. It is a loan. You just don't get the money. And you have to look at this loan as having an interest in itself. It is like you're taking a personal loan that is automated in its approval. Yeah. All right. Now, have you checked out personal loan before?
Yeah, the interest rate can be quite cutthroat.
What is the percentage that you've gotten before?
I think somewhere between 5 and 7.
5 and 7 is cutthroat for you. Try 10. Yeah. 10 per annum is bad. Even 6% per annum is really bad already. Now, here's where the devil lies in the details. Now, let's take one of them as an example. Let's take you see this? Now, this is Paul Tan. Credit where credit due. So I'm basing it on the Maybank one. Paul Tan reports on the Maybank one. Now, you're looking at 580 ringgit repayment, loan amount 50,000 at 2.8%, a little bit higher than I expected, but never mind, around there, 108 months is 9 years. Oh, don't do that, guys. Car loan, I think a comfortable amount is 6. If you can, 5. The problem with a hire purchase loan, I very, very easily, it's flat per annum. If you borrow 50,000 and you are at 2.8%, 2.8% of 50,000 is 1,004. So if you borrow 5 years, it's 1,004 times 5. If you borrow 7 years, 1,004 times 7. If you borrow 9 years, 1,004 by 9 times 9. Actually, more worth it the lesser you take. I want you to remember this because this additional holiday, the 6 months holiday that you're looking at, is exactly the same. There is a percentage on that they don't tell you. There is a percentage in which they charge. And they are treating it as, this 6 months, let's say, your monthly repayment is 580 right here. Yeah. So 580, you take your maths, very simple, times 6. This is the amount that they are giving you a loan for. You just don't receive the money. It's 3,480 ringgit. Okay, 3,480 ringgit. They take 471 ringgit out of 3,480. 471 ringgit of interest is 13.5% of that 3,000 plus break that they loan to you for 6 months. Because 13% is very close to Along level already. So a banker will tell you, but you forgot to factor in, you are not paying back after 6 months.
Okay.
You're not paying back after 6 months. You might be paying back at the end of the year. So the keyword here is the percentage they charge, which is a fixed amount. Let's say you are owing 50,000, okay? You are paying 580 a month. No matter what, they're charging you 471. Regardless of how many more months you have left. Then the percentage now depends on how long you have left. Now, if you have 3 more months left, do not take the 6 months moratorium. So let's say you have 6 months left. Okay, you have 6 months left. And you take the 6 months. That means you pay back fully in a year. That means you pay back your full amount plus these charges that they levy onto you. Okay?
Yeah.
In 1 year, your interest rate is 6.7%. Is this a money-making scheme? Or is it a scheme to help the people? 6.7%. Meaning that it is equivalent to taking a personal loan. So the moral of the story, long story short, is if you still have 6 more months to pay, do not take the moratorium.
Okay.
In fact, it will be cheaper for you to go and take a personal loan and finish paying now and then service your personal loan. Here's the thing. If you have 1.5 years left, okay, then you add another 6 months up because you add the 6 months, you take a 6-month break. The amount they are charging you, the 471 that they are charging you, is equivalent to 3.3%. Okay, that's all right. Now, what if you have 2.5 more years to pay? That means you take a 9-year loan, you have 2.5 more years to pay. Then it's 2.2%. That means if your loan repayment is 2 years or more, I would suggest you to take it if you need a help. Because the 471 over a period of 2 years is really nothing. If your loan is just been approved like a year and a half ago, and it's a 7 or 8 year loan, by all means take it. It's a personal loan at a very low rate. It's basically a personal loan at a higher purchase interest rate. But if your loan is finishing within 1 to 2 years, I suggest you don't take it. It's not worth it.
Is this percentage, is it the same across all banks, or is this only from Maybank?
Based on what I read, the RHB gave a different calculation because their client all borrow 100,000 and not 50. So they give examples of 100,000. But it all comes back to roughly the same. The percentage is very, very close. You treat Public Bank, Maybank, and Bank RHB, and Hong Leong, their absolute moratorium for 6 months, as roughly the same thing. Now, of course, your actual amount may differ because how this is based on borrowing 50,000 at 2.8% with a 9 years loan, and then you have a 36 months remaining. Any one of this figure being different, your amount may actually be different, and your percentage may actually be different. But I think it is equivalent in terms of percentage. Okay, and it's quite predictable, and you won't find surprises there. The surprise is in CIMB, and if you're CIMB, you can cry right now. Now, CIMB, very beautiful chart given to you here, okay? With the remaining 37, a total I didn't bother to calculate. So basically, we are looking at give or take roughly the same as a MyB, 50-odd thousand. That's why your payment amount per month is 530. As you can see, it's roughly the same. Just now 580, this is 530. Now, this is option 1, 6 plus 6. Very complicated. This is basically option 1, 6 months moratorium that every bank is required to give. Again, the mentality here is that you have to treat it like a personal loan. For 6 months, they're giving you right now a personal loan. But if your monthly repayment is 529 times 6, that means your loan amount for these 6 months is 3,174. 3,174, and they are taking 822 ringgit out of it. You know what's the percentage? 25%.
25.
This is Along territory, bro. As a refresher, just now public bank was 13.5% on the amount.
Yeah.
Okay. 13.5, we calculate back to 6.7 per annum because it's 6 months, 13.5. So per annum then is 6.7, half of that. So 6.7 is bad, right?
Yeah.
But this is 25%. Half of that is still 12.9.
Nuts. So is there a tenure that where this CIMB relief makes sense?
So like just now I said public bank, anything 2 years or more, if you still have 2 years or more, your interest rate will be the amount that they levy, you can treat it as 3.3. If you have 3 years or 3 years, then it's 2.2. I stop at 3 because anything more than 3 is definitely lower than that, which means the banks are losing money. You got what I mean? Which means the banks are losing money if you have more than 3 years left in the what. So I think in terms of public bank, Maybank, AmBank, RHB, Hong Leong, it's a good balance because it's not only the bank is earning, they are sharing the burden because anything below 2 years, they are earning one. So if you have less than 2 years, don't let them earn because 6.7% is just stupid. Bro, don't do that. Might as well just go and get a 6% personal loan and then use that to cover this. Then you service your personal loan. It's easier. But I think it's okay because anything more than 3+ or 4 years, they are losing. So there is a good balance here because you see maximum loan is 9 years. Anything more than 3 or 4, they lose money. Anything less than 3, you lose money. So there is a balance going on here. There is a balance going on here, which is slightly skewed towards the people, which is somewhere between 3, 4, 5, 6 years. This is a balance, which is okay, I personally find. You know, they are sharing the burden. CIMB is not sharing burden with you. I'm telling you upfront. CIMB, if 6 months left, that means you're repaying in 1 year, your personal loan of 3,174 will be levied at 12.9%. If you're paying back in 2 years, you're still 6.47. I calculate up to 4 years. That means you owe, there's still 4 years. That means you only pay like 3 years, for example. It's still 3.2%. Which means for CIMB, it will only be worth it if you have 4+ or 5 years and above. Then only it's worth it for you to take it. That is for this option. There is another option, which is half. You see, CIMB gives you this. So I've already talked about this alternative. So just now we've already finished with the full moratorium of 6 months, right? Now it's this, the 50%. I've already mentioned actually upfront, the 50% is not worth it. And in terms of percentage, it's not as well. The percentage is actually a little bit higher. In fact, I thought it would have been lower because they want to discourage you from doing this and take this instead. But it turns out it's not. If you have 6 more months to pay and you take this option, if you have 6 more months to pay, you take this option. That means you pay in a year. At the end of the year, you will have to finish paying. Your percentage will be 7.4%. They are still levying 7.4. A refresher just now, if you were to take from, say, Maybank, exactly the same for this. Okay, for 6 months one. If you're repaying in a year, that means you have 6 more months, and then you take the 6 months. At the end of the year, 6.7%. So there is a almost 1% difference between this. This is actually even more expensive than this in terms of percentage. The amount is smaller, but the percentage is actually higher. So there is no actual gain percentage-wise for you to opt this over this. And my advice is just take the 6 months. Forget about it, keep the money. Don't spend it, keep the money. Yes, you are paying more, but percentage-wise is less. What about the CIMB one? I would have thought that, hey, instead of taking 6 months, why not we take 3 months? You know, it's not that bad situation. We take 3 months. Logic tells you that it should be better, right?
Yeah.
Nope, it's not. 6 months moratorium on CIMB, the surprise one. The amount that they charge on the 6 months personal loan that they're giving you, if you're paying in a year per annum, if I count per annum, is 12.9%. 3 months moratorium is inherently less risky than 6 months moratorium from the bank's point of view.
Yeah.
So naturally, something which is less risky should be more encouraged, should be attached with a lower percentage of penalty. But no, that's not the case. Not only for CIMB, for other banks as well. The option of paying 50% for 6 months instead of paying nothing for 6 months is inherently less risky for the bank. You get what I mean? So naturally, there should be an incentive in terms of percentage of penalty, but there is none.
Yeah.
There is none. They're not sharing the risk with you, you know.
Yeah.
You are taking the risk and paying more. I wonder why. Why not I just take the 6 months? I think kesimpulannya is this. Overall, if you take the 6 months moratorium, the banks are one way or another sharing the burden with you, especially for the public Maybank, mBank, RHB, and Hong Leong. Again, the details have not come out, but according to Paul Tan's report, all of them are following the Maybank one. So if they are following the Maybank one, based on my calculation, they should arrive at roughly the same thing, which means that it will be worth it the moment you have 2 or more years to pay and take it. In fact, if you have more than 3 years to pay, then it's below 2% already. If it's below 2%, then the bank is actually losing money. So I think it's a balance. Some will benefit, some will not. But either way, I think it's a good balance. CIMB is basically telling you don't bother. If you sit down and calculate, it will only be worth it if you have more than 4 years. That means 5 years and above, then only you will fall down to 2+%. So they are earning much more. So in terms of CIMB, the balance is not achieved, I think. It is very biased towards the bank in terms of benefit. Now, again, like I said, I do not know to what extent CIMB does a higher purchase. Again, you have to look at the bank's core product as well. So what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is if you have less than 2 years, you have 1 year, you have 6 months, don't take the 6 months moratorium. Don't. In fact, it will be cheaper for you to take a personal loan to sort out your higher purchase, then you service your personal loan. If you can get your personal loan at 6%, don't bother taking the loan holiday unless you absolutely have to. Yeah, unless you're desperate. If you have 5 years, 6 years to go, I suggest you take it, whether you need it or not, because you are getting free lunch. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you have 5 to 6 years more, or 7 years more even, I would strongly suggest you to take it.
And if your income is not affected at all, it's beneficial for you to take 6 months.
I think it is. You know why? You know why? You're hedging against the future. What if 6 months down the road, a year down the road, your income is affected? But of course, it has to be coupled with your spending behavior. You have to significantly cut down. You cannot just take this as a holiday and then just go and spend. You take this as a holiday, put the money aside, put it into something that generates more, put it into mutual funds or whatever that generates a higher return. I know it's like, oh, after you plus minus, you get 2%. Yeah, but still, it's money. Why do something that lose money? My advice is don't bother with the alternative options. Makes no sense whatsoever in terms of percentage. Yes, the actual amount is smaller. I think that's why the percentage is higher, because they're earning much less. You know what I mean? They're earning much, much less in terms of actual amount of money. So that's why they up the percentage a little bit. Yeah. So that's my advice.